It kind of leads me into my next question. Of course, when DARE got introduced into the schools, you had parents who were a little standoffish. When you had officers in the schools with guns, same kind of things.
Sure.
What was the initial response of the parents about the heroin thing? Because, you know, people in their 40s, my age, heroin was just a drug that was so far out there. I mean, it was a bad thing.
Right. The initial reaction from most of the high schools was, we don't want you in our schools talking about this because we're not going to be labeled as a heroin high school. So I even had one PR guy from one of the large school districts in West County called and said, how dare you say we're in denial about this? We do not have a heroin problem in our school. And he just went on and on and on about how horrible it was that I said this. And so I directed him to a link to the Post-Dispatch about a young lady named Meredith Killingsworth. And Meredith, in this, they had the before and after pictures. Cheerleader in high school, now she's on heroin. And in her story, in the Post-Dispatch article, she talked about she started using heroin in high school, at this particular high school, in this district where this guy was basically chewing me out for talking about it. And so I directed him to that link. I never heard another word from him. And about a month later, they called and said, we'd like you to have a town hall meeting here in our school. So they got past the denial part, and then they said, we need to do something about this.
What about the parents' approach to it? Was it hard to sell them on this?
No, not at all. The parents, this is one of those things like school shootings that will scare the hell out of you, basically. If you find out that your child's involved in heroin, it's devastating. And all the parents that I've talked to since we started this initiative all said, I missed the warning signs. I should have seen it. I didn't know what to look for. So that's been part of our education to the parents is, here's what you look for. Here's are some of the signs and symptoms. So what we've done too is the parents are now recognizing that their child could be involved in this, and they're taking them for treatment. And by the way, the treatment options for heroin have improved dramatically over the last few years. When I first started talking about this in 2010, I was told by the DEA the average long-term success rate for a heroin addict was about 5%. Today, we're being told it's about 50%. Now, that's still not a good number. If your child gets involved in heroin and you have a 50-50 chance that they're going to get out of this alive, that's not a good number.
Also, DARE awarded during this past year. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Many DARE programs. By the way, the DARE program has morphed quite a bit in the last few years. Now the new program is called Keeping It Real. It's part of DARE America, but they've really changed the curriculum in the schools on what they teach. Now there's a piece on bullying. You know, they talk about prescription pain meds, and all those type of things have now been added. And so every year, the DARE America, they recognize one DARE officer in the whole United States for their work in this area. And Officer Kathy Kelly was selected from our department to be the National DARE Officer of the Year this year. And well-deserved. Kathy has made almost all of her police career helping kids and talking to them about the dangers of drug abuse. And she is a well-deserving person to get this award, and we were very happy for her.
Throughout this past year, another city joins the St. Louis County Police family, the city of Delwood.
Absolutely. The city of Delwood, it was a long drawn-out process to get there. But the good thing is the people in Delwood had a chance to vote and decide on who they wanted to elect, on whether or not they would support the county police in Delwood, and they voted for people that wanted us to come into their community. And it's been nothing but positive since we've been there. The community has really come on board with us. They're participating. We've had our first Citizens Academy there. The officers are riding bicycles in the neighborhoods. We're having parties for them, and they're really enjoying our relationship.
Last year, Jennings was added to the list. Kind of
Correct.
talk about some of the past cities that have become part of the police family and what that means to the community.
Well, what it means to the community are a lot of things is, for example, I went to Fenton on day one, May 22nd, 1995, the day that we started in the city of Fenton. And we've been there since then. What it means to the community is we bring a lot of resources to the table. Whereas, you know, if you look at Jennings, going back to Jennings, using them for example, they had about 31 officers in Jennings, but they didn't have a lot of other resources. And they were one of the lower paid police departments in the area. So what we were able to do is come in with a professional police force with all the resources that we have. We were able to hire all their good officers. And by the way, we don't automatically offer a job to all of the officers in that department. They have to pass our background and meet our standards, and then we will hire them. And we welcome them into our family with open arms. But if they're not qualified to be a county police officer, we won't hire them. They have to go somewhere else. But that's the nice part for like a place, any of these cities that hire us, is they get all these resources, they get professional officers, and then we get engaged in the community, and that's really what they want. And if you look at Jennings in particular, their crime is down double digits since we've taken over in Jennings. And I had somebody tell me at a Halloween event in Jennings this is the first year they've been able to send their kids out into the neighborhood to go trick-or-treating. They felt safe enough to do that. I think that's a big deal.
What would be your goals for this upcoming year as far as just across the board with everything that you have your hands in right now?
Well, the goals will be obviously to continue our reduction in crime. I keep saying I don't know how long this can last. I mean, it just keeps going down and down and down. I don't know how long it can last. But to look at new and innovative ways to address crime issues. The other thing that we always have to look out for is taxpayer dollars. How can we give the taxpayers the best value for their dollars? So we're always looking at ways to save money as well, and to bring in the best qualified officers to offer the service out there. The other thing that we will continue to look at is very specific crime fighting initiatives. And one of the things we're working on to help us reduce crime is a new relationship with our partners in federal and state probation and parole. We know that the vast majority of our crimes are committed by people that have previously committed crimes. Many of them are under supervision. What we don't have today is an electronic database from probation and parole. So at 3 in the morning, if we have a burglary, we want our officers to be able to say, who in this neighborhood is on probation or parole for burglary? We can't do that. And the other piece of that is we want to know what the stipulations of their probation and parole are. So if we're, for example, in Jennings and there's somebody that's on probation or parole for armed robbery and they've been released to the community, and it says they have to be in at 10 every night, we're going to go knock on their door. And we're going to make sure they're home at 10 o'clock at night. And the folks at probation and parole do a good job, but they don't have the staff that are out there all day long like we have. So we're actually going to do some of the work of a probation and parole officer and make sure people are abiding by the stipulations of their release agreements.
What would you say to anybody out there who is looking to have a career in law enforcement as far as guiding them towards St. Louis County? I mean, what kinds of things should they take in high school, in college, to prepare themselves?
We will only accept an applicant if they have a 2-year degree, 64 semester hours, which is basically an associate's degree, or we will take our veterans, military veterans, in lieu of that. So what I tell folks is you don't have to necessarily concentrate on criminal justice as far as your college education or in high school, but what you do have to do is do something. You could come to us with a degree in speech. You come to us with a degree in history, but it shows us that you've taken that next step. You have that college education behind you, or in the case of a military, you've served our country. We know you're a good candidate. So I would just tell people that they have to take anything that interests them. Now, some folks come to us a lot that have criminal justice degrees. That's okay. That interests you to do that. But if you have an interest in history, but you really want to be a police officer, we'll accept that as well.
And it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, it's a profession. You're a police officer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a huge commitment.
As hard as you try to turn it off, it's very difficult. But you're exactly right. It's not one of those 9 to 5 off weekends and holiday jobs. You can't say I want off every Christmas and all those things that most jobs will offer. It really is it's a career, it's a calling, but it's not an everyday job, and it's not for everybody.
Stressful, but very rewarding on the other hand.
I've always said it's about 80% boredom and about 20% sheer terror.
When kind of coming back forefront to what we talked about at the beginning of the show here, your advice to parents right now and people who can't really even watch television, like myself and my wife, when we see this, it's almost having young children of our own. We have to turn it off. It's really a rock the emotional state of this country.
No doubt. Like I said before, a tipping point. I visited a couple schools this week at the beginning of school. The kids are oblivious to what's going on, thankfully. The parents are very concerned, very appreciative that we spent time in their schools this week, that we're visible around their schools. My best advice to any parent is you have to live your life. Don't stop enjoying your life because you have a deranged individual like we saw in Connecticut out there. And I said earlier, we think there's others out there that are capable of doing this, but you have to live your life. If you live your life locked up in your house, what kind of life is that? You can't have that. You just have to, I know people have said, I've had a hard time getting into the holiday spirit this year because of these things. You just have to figure out how to put that behind you, think about how you can make it better, correct some of those issues, and move on and live your life.
And whether it's with a situation like this, or you think somebody's dealing drugs in your subdivision, or somebody's robbing in your subdivision, your advice to people about stepping up and not being afraid to take a stand or call the police and report something like this?
We've seen a lot of that. You hear about the stop snitching culture and things like that. We don't have a whole lot of that in the county. As a matter of fact, I think most people are very good. We answer about 1 million 911 calls a year. And a lot of folks say to me, hey, I was going to call the other day, there was a strange looking car on my street, but you guys are busy and I didn't want to bother you. I hear that all the time. You're not bothering us. That's what we're out there for. And if we come out and we find out there's nothing to it, it's somebody getting ready to buy the house down the street and they're waiting for the real estate guy, which is a call I went on 2 days ago. If that's what it's great. It's wonderful. We had a nice conversation. Just seeing why you're in the neighborhood, those type of things. And then we let the citizen know that everything's okay.
Chief, I know you're very proud of what you do in your career with St. Louis County Police Department and being chief. When you look around the country, so much negativism towards police, but when the words St. Louis County Police Department are brought up, nothing but positive about what you and your staff do for the St. Louis region. How does it make you feel personally?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very proud of the work that the men and women do every day out there with the community. By the way, we're a big organization. We have 1,100 employees. We have our own issues and problems, but very few. And we deal with them when we have them. If somebody makes a mistake, an honest mistake, that's okay. But what we don't do is tolerate any kind of misconduct. And I think that's helped us establish that relationship with the community, and we show that we can police ourselves.
And what can the community do to help you and the police department out on a daily basis? Because a lot of people do want to get involved. You got retired persons and people who want to be an officer but are maybe afraid to step into those shoes. What can they do? I
go right back to attend one of our citizens academies. That's the best way to learn what we do and to get involved. And then you join the Alumni Association, and then you're a volunteer for us to get involved that way. For those that are interested in that, have some time in their hands, I can't go anywhere in this police department without seeing an alumni volunteer.
And yourself, the command staff, every precinct, captain, open door policy. What would you say to the community about that? Because I think that's an important aspect why we feel so comfortable now with the St. Louis County Police Department, because they know that line of communication is there.
We have to have that. I tell my staff in my office, if somebody really wants to talk to me, I'm going to talk to them. And they may not like what I say. They may not like the answer, but I'm going to talk to them. We don't run and hide from them. And it's the same way with all of our commanders out in the precinct, is we try to engage the community. And not only will they won't always agree with us, but at least we will explain to them why we're doing what we did. And most of them are okay with that afterwards.
And as we wrap the show up here today, we had talked about the continued effort through the next several months, and not only the heroin talks, but also the violence in school talks.
No doubt about it. We have a lot of work to do in that area. I think you're going to see across this country a big push for new legislation or blue ribbon commissions on school shootings. All those things are going to start taking place. And we want to be part of that conversation because we think in this area we have a lot to offer, especially because of the relationship we have with our schools and the Safe Schools Partnership. We brought that in many years ago under Chief Patel. It's continued to thrive. We're having a meeting later in this week with our partners, and we're going to talk about what the schools, want to see from us, and then we'll talk to them what we think some options are for them.
Well, Chief, we want to congratulate you on another successful year with St. Louis County Police Department.
Thanks, Randy.
Next year, we'll be back here talking about the same thing.
I look forward to it.
Rate. Appreciate your time. Once again, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us here on Priority One. For any more information, you can go to the St. Louis County Police website. Thanks. Happy holidays. Have a good evening.